風に抱かれて瞳に映るざわめきも何も聞こえなくて、ただ今は甘い時のいたずらだと空につぶやいた。回る置き去りにされた時間の中で私は今見つめを愛しすぎたあなたが壁際の向こうでそっと笑ってる。
Good evening, everybody. About that fucking time. yeah, we're doing the Godzilla creepypasta again today. It's been a while. I'm gonna try and get through the rest of it. There's a couple chapters that are split up into 2 parts, probably because they're real fucking long. Probably because they're real fucking long, but that's all right. Let me go in. Albums, scroll down to where I have all the Plum Tree albums. Let's go This Day Won't Last at All. How about that? That's a good album. I don't feel like just using video game music today. So chat's up. And we're ready to get started. Chapter 5, Entropy. Part 1. In the original game, the 6th world was Pluto. Ironically, despite being the smallest planet, Pluto was the largest and most diverse world in the game. Entropy had a different layout, but was similarly huge and diverse. The board music was played by a violin instrument. A melody that starts sounding mournful, and then it gets rather, I guess I would call it distorted. It made me feel depressed and unnerved, not something I would want to hear while trying to sleep. Strangely, none of the levels were from the previous worlds were present here. Instead, there were 8 brand new icons. Hang on, I'm biting shit off my nail. I'm biting and attacking myself. All right. Instead, there were 8 brand new icons. The bosses this time were Megalon, Batra, and Mecha Godzilla. As usual, the first thing I did was go to the quiz level for another interrogation from Face. But when I got there, I noticed something different. Instead of the usual goofy GH1D0RA music, it was the password theme. Music change seemed to be intentional. Because after the first 2 questions at the start, the quiz started to take a darker tone. Do you like ice cream? Yes. Do you like clowns? Yes. Is time slipping through your fingers? Yes. Do you have any regrets? Yes. Do some people deserve to die? No. Is it safe to go out at night? Yes. Do you find it hard to sleep at night? Yes. Have you ever killed anyone? No. Do you want to kill anyone? No. Are you actually accomplishing anything? No. Does life have any real meaning? No. Do you like Mothra? No. I knew that last one was gonna be gameplay related question, but I had no idea what the result would be. I answered honestly because as I said before, I never really liked Mothra. Nobody liked playing Mothra in this game. There's a good reason for that. Every other time Mothra gets hit, she gets slammed back to the left corner of the screen, and she sucks at fighting because her attacks are so weak. The only benefit Mothra had was being able to fly or were the obstacles in some levels? So I answered no, and Face replied back to me. Not only with the maniacal expression, but with the text, "Too bad." I was taken back to the map screen and was shocked to see that that Godzilla and Oniisan have disappeared from the board, leaving only Mothra. That's fucked up and evil. Face had just fucked me over. Needless to say, I was pissed, but there wasn't anything I could do. And I'm willing to bet, even if I had said yes, I would have been stuck with Mothra anyway. Face giveth, and Face taketh away. I took a deep breath and got ready to explore. There were two paths I could take through the board. I decided to take the lower one. This turned out to be a good choice for reasons I'll get into momentarily. The first world ahead of me was a forest, so I started there. Almost immediately I got an eerie feeling. There was something about this level that seemed quote-unquote off to me, even more than the previous ones. Perhaps it was the pitch black background. I've always been afraid of things being in the forest at night. Something about all those trees makes me feel surrounded and vulnerable. The fact that I was stuck as Mothra didn't help. Playing the game's previous worlds as Godzilla gave me a feeling of bravery. Being in control of the king of the monsters. I'd be able to handle just about anything in my way. But it's not like that with Mothra. No feeling of strength or security. Now I'm just a weak, easily overwhelmed bug, traversing into the unknown. Back to the level, the music had new instruments, sounding like woodwinds, followed by slow, rhythmic drums and chiming bells. Gave me this feeling that I was intruding into some dangerous place I really should not be. After a while, I encountered the first enemies of the stage, or at least I assumed they were enemies. They were strange, long-legged deer-like creatures. Instead of attacking, they were just idly walking around. I went to approach them and they ran away. I thought about shooting one with an eye beam to see what would happen, but it seemed wrong. These creatures were harmless, so I passed over them and continued through the level. About halfway through, I encountered groups of the deer-like animals, and also two new creatures, a sloth-like creature with a beak climbing on a tree and a hairy raptor-esque beasts that were preying on the deer. It was very surreal watching these creatures interact. I didn't feel like I was playing a video game, but rather that I was traveling through a forest in some other dimension. The creatures ignored me for the most part, although the raptors did attack me when I got too close or if I attacked them first. I know I shot one of them to help one of the deer creatures escape. I got clawed at, but confrontation was easily avoided by flying up to the top of the screen. After that, I had to choose whether I wanted to play the levels with the hourglass or the TV screen. I picked the latter. What I got was not at all what I expected. I pressed the button to start the level on the TV screen like I normally would. This screen with an animation popped up. There's also music in the background, which was the goofy Ghidorah music which used to be playing in the quiz levels. I was somewhat unsettled by this because it was so strange. I found it a bit spooky because I had a shirt that looked like that when I was a kid. After starting the animation, you could go back to the board by pressing any button. After that, I had no idea what to expect for the rest of these icons. I went to try an hourglass icon next. I was somewhat relieved when an actual level came up. Here we go. Hang on. I'm checking something. I'm getting distracted. Yeah. Yep, who knows moment. It was certainly an unorthodox looking level, all brown with time measuring instruments floating in the air and gigantic grandfather clocks in the background. The music was the same as the board screen. And very early in the level I encountered something I did not expect to see. Original enemies from the game. Not just that, it seemed to be a whole fleet of them, and the yellow tanks, which were normally immobile, could now move. I took some damage, but it was nothing I couldn't handle. The most interesting thing about this level was the colored hourglass items. There were 3 of these. A blue hourglass item that made time slow down and filled the level with enemies from the past. A red hourglass that made time speed up and filled the level with enemies from the future. And the green hourglass, which set time to a normal speed and filled the level with the original game enemies. Oh, terribly sorry. I encountered the blue hourglass first. As stated, the game started to slow down and I saw the enemies from the past, which were 5 different types of prehistoric animals. I don't know much about prehistory, but I believe all of these enemies represent real animals. Yep, there's the Homunculus, the woolly mammoth, the triceratops, some kind of early seal, might be an ichthyosaur of some kind actually. Archaeopteryx? Yeah, that's the one. The level went into another segment and I encountered the green hourglass. And then I fought the original enemies again. It was the same 5 types, so I didn't take any screenshots, but in the last segment I encountered the red hourglass and the enemies that must have been from the future. Now, whether or not the game was showing me 8-bit renditions of creatures that will actually exist thousands of years into the Earth's future, I have no idea. But with that thought in mind, I found this particular segment to be very eerie. And it was made more tense because everything moved faster. One of the future enemies bore a striking resemblance to something I saw in a book once called Troodon Man. Another looked like some kind of organic spaceship. There's only one type of the fifth enemy, future creature. And when it appeared, all the others ran for their lives, leaving me alone to battle it. It could fly, but its sprite didn't actually move, and its single attack was firing a lightning bolt from its quote-unquote face. Even so, it was surprisingly powerful, and I suppose it could be considered a mini-boss. Let's take a look at the Troodon man very quick. Yeah, let's open that up in my other file. Oh, yep. Yeah, that was on screen. That was on screen. Hang on. I'm taking care of something behind the scenes work. You don't have to worry about it. Don't worry your pretty little head about this, alright? I'm just getting distracted because someone fucked up. I have to clean up their mess. Then again, what's new? There we go. After defeating it, it left a health power-up that restored the health and energy I had lost fighting it, which was convenient. It seemed I would need all the help I could get to beat this world with Mothra alone. After that previous stage, I call Time Warp, the next stage appeared to be a toxic waste dump. As you can see, this place looked grungy and inhospitable. The music was a short looping of an ambient synthesizer song. Listening to it made me feel like I had sniffed some toxic fumes myself. But I was messing, and it was messing with my head the whole time. I even felt like I was choking while playing this level. Oh, fucked up little bird people. The enemies all seem to be mutated to some degree. In the above screenshot, you can see green mummies with bird skulls that jump out of the waste and spit projectiles. There's also this brownish cow skeleton monster with spider legs. Halfway through the level, I even saw one of the deer from the forest. It was alone, and when I saw it, it was drinking toxic waste out of a barrel with an anteater-like tongue. Hang on. Okay, so on Twitter, I posted the penis gun image from an earlier, like, part of the creepypasta. If you've been paying attention, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the penis gun. It's a screenshot where the enemy has a gun attached to it, and it looks like a penis. Because the gun's just dangling, out front. He's hanging free. Like, I remember this moment because on stream, I saw it and I was like, dude, that's a penis. That's a penis, dude. Hang on, I'm itching. I'm scratching my body because my body is itchy and I need to scratch it. There we go. There we go. There we go. After moving over to try and make it stop, I was moving over to try and make it stop, but then this flock of skullbirds came out of nowhere and started attacking. The deer was scared by this and ended up running off the ground into the toxic waste. I feel bad for it. One of the birds bit me, but I regained health quick from killing all of them. They were rather weak. I pressed onward. Of all the levels in Entropy, this was probably the most quote-unquote normal. In that there were those little deviants from the move forward smash things formula of the original game. I encountered more creatures through the level, like tentacled blobs and some kind of deformed thing with human-like teeth. I didn't feel like provoking them into a fight, so I kept flying near the top of the screen. I still had to deal with the occasional flock of birds every now and then. At the end of the level was a large bluish-green snake. And there I encountered another bluish-green lake, sorry. And there I encountered another mini-boss, some kind of monster with a long neck and a whale's skull. It attacks with a mouth projectile, and by charging into you. It also could go underneath the water and rapidly emerge from a different place. It was harder to beat than the boss in the time warp, and it had a lot of health because it must have taken me 3 minutes to defeat it. It let out a really loud noise when it died and then sank back into the water as I left the screen. Back on the board, I went to the nearest level icon I hadn't seen yet, which was a white tree. As I guessed, the level is a winter-themed recolor of the forest stage. But unlike the regular forest, I didn't feel unnerved starting this one. I think the music had a lot to do with this. It was a gentle, calm song. It almost sounded romantic. It was like quite stress relieving, and the forest itself looked much less ominous covered in snow. I traveled through the first segment, enjoying the atmosphere for 4 minutes, and then suddenly I realized something. I haven't seen a single creature since I started the level. Where are all the animals? Soon after I left the screen and the next segment started. In the second segment, I was still in the winter forest, but now the music was gone. I was starting to feel suspicious. But then I reminded myself that there are other empty levels in the game, and this is most likely another one of those. But then I heard something familiar. It was the 12-second looping music from Unforgiving Cold starting up. I could feel my heart sink as I came across this terrible sight. There's a whole group of dead deer creatures covered in snow. Judging from the blackish-blue tone of their skin, they must have all frozen to death. On closer inspection, some were missing body parts. Now I was frightened. But I still had to keep going. Before exiting the level, I was really hoping to see something resembling the previous forest animals in a living state. And sure enough, I did. This creature was much like the beaked sloth, except this thing had white fur, and it was much more of a beaked gorilla. It was walking very slowly when I saw it, but I was happy to at least see something alive. However, it didn't stay that way for long. A pack of raptors who must have sensed that something else was still alive came rushing in from the right of the screen. The beach gorilla didn't stand a chance, as one of the raptors immediately lunged at it and ripped open its back legs. These winter raptors acted far different from their temperate relatives, while the other raptors only attacked while hunting prey or when provoked. The winter raptors seemed to have all gone insane. They attacked everything in the sight. One was running back and forth, clawing at nothing. Even the noises they made sounded different, more high-pitched and enraged. As I left the second segment, I saw two raptors fighting to death. They were both covered in injuries, and one of the raptors had been blinded in one eye. I took a screenshot, but I didn't stay to see who won the fight. Pussy! I would have stayed and made bets. That would have been fucking crazy. Oh, people are really liking the penis gun post. All right. Glad to see we get fellow cock aficionados on my page. I only had to get through one more segment before I could go back to the board screen. But in this segment, I was no longer in the winter forest, but instead a very empty, grassy plain. With a bright gray moon in the sky, the pleasant music of Winter Forest Part 1 had returned. And immediately I started to feel dread. This is going to sound crazy, but it's the absolute truth. The game made this level for one of my memories. After a long stretch of nothing, I reached a lake, and then the moon moved down from the sky and began to hatch like an egg. When it did, a curled up humanoid figure fell into the lake as the moon halves quickly disintegrated. I heard the splash when it hit the water. Then a moment of silence. Then the screen began to shake and a new creature emerged from the water. And thus I was introduced to a monster I called the Moon Beast. This was the only screenshot I took, as I was focusing all my concentration on winning the fight. And it was the most difficult fight yet. Stronger than any of the previous bosses, this creature would have been hard to take down with Godzilla, and with Mothra seemed nearly impossible. I suppose I would consider myself fortunate that the beast lacked any of the attacks like Gigan's Saw. Because if it had, I would never have won this. I barely had 3 bars of health when I finally killed this abomination. What happened afterward is hardly what I would call a reward. I've been trying to keep my promise to suppress this memory for years, but it seems as if I've got to get it off my chest. This is a very painful memory for me, but the game already knows about it. Hang on, Hang on. Just as a meme. Not that one. No, it's Laura's theme. Here we go. There we go. I've been trying to keep my promise to suppress this memory for years, but it seems as if I have to get it off my chest. This is a very painful memory for me, but the game already knows about it, and I think you should too. I'll tell you the most important parts, because I don't like bringing this experience back into my head unless I have to. Back when I was in middle school, I had a girlfriend named Melissa. She suffered from some kind of mental disorder that caused her to go into, let's call them episodes. And she was in an episode, she would stand or sit perfectly straight and still, and her face would instantly lose any expressions she had before. She would speak very clearly, without any hint of emotion. When it was over, she would start trembling and sometimes bury her face in her hands and remain silent for several minutes. I can't really convey the feeling it gave me in words, and I won't try. You had to see this in person to understand. But despite this, she was a very kind person, and I cared for her deeply. We liked to hang out in a field at night and look at the stars. But one night she didn't say anything to me at all. She just stared directly at the moon, trembling. I tried to talk to her, but she suddenly sprang up and ran right into traffic. I tried to stop her, but I was too late. She got hit by a truck and was killed that night. I looked her right in the eyes when the wheels went over her neck. The sight has always haunted me. I know the game knows about this because after I defeated the Moon Beast, this happened. Alright, potential VOD mute was worth it for the meme. Just put a fucking hold on my music just to play the Twin Peaks theme. That's fucking great. Oh, there we go. Chapter 5, Entropy Part 2. After that, the game went back to the board screen. It was all I could do to not burst out screaming. My hands were shaking so bad, I could barely hold the controller. I knew the game was going to test me if I kept playing, but I had no idea it would go so far, or that it was even capable of doing what it just did. I could feel my brain going haywire as I asked myself, did the game just read my mind? It didn't seem possible, but what other explanation was there? It was then that I could no longer deny but now seemed obvious. The game was alive. And not only that, it can also establish some kind of mental connection with the player. And yet, I couldn't convince myself to stop playing. I don't know if it was the game messing with my mind or just my stubborn curiosity, but even the previous revelation. But even with the previous revelation, I really wanted to see this through to the end. Even more than I did after I beat Dementia. Terrifying as it might be, even dangerous, I knew that if I quit playing, I would never be able to stop thinking about it. If I tried to restart the game, it might go back to being normal again. How many people ever get to witness something like this firsthand, let alone be able to take screenshots of the whole thing? Fucked up as it was, this was the experience of a lifetime. Even so, I couldn't take any chances with my health. I had the TV remote right next to me, ready to turn off the TV in case I was in actual danger. And if that didn't work, I'd pull the plug out of the wall, or just run out of the room. Surely that would be enough. Whatever powers the quote-unquote game has, it seemed to be confined to what it can show on the TV and whatever its mental connection could do. The latter was what worried me. I still don't know what I was dealing with, so I wasn't about to underestimate it. I took a break for a few minutes to calm my nerves, and then it was back to the game. And speaking of TVs, there was a TV screen icon right below the white forest. It just left, and because the first animation was so bizarre, I figured I'd try another to see what happens. Although I expected the same animation, I actually got a totally different one. Yeah, look at this guy. Meow, 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 meow. That's silly. Oh, weird. The music for this one was the Neptune board music. Fitting, I suppose, since it's a fishman and all that. But I can't help but wonder what the point of these things are. There's one more TV screen icon, so I figured it must have a unique animation of its own. I was going to make sure to see what it was before I left Entropy. Oh, sick, yawning. We might have to do several more parts of this. Which is not really what I'm hoping for, but you never know. Hang on, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting off into the weeds. You might as well enjoy the weekend and pretend. As I can tell that Monday's going to fall. This day won't last at all. Yeah, last night after work, I really did go ahead and build that Zaku 1. I'll take pictures of it later and show it to you guys. It'll be fun. It'll be good. I just saw a fucking stupid. I just saw a fucking phenomenal Letterboxd review that I need to read to you guys. So, Detour. From someone reviewing the 2018 remake of Dario Argento's Suspiria. 3.5 stars. Watched on January 3rd, 2023. I think a metal bat would bend in half if I smacked against the curve of Dakota Johnson's forehead. This may be caused by the wig installation or just the incredible mass of her cranium. I don't know. What the fuck? Oh. Dude, that is a fucked up review to leave on something. What the hell? Oh. All right, back to the reading. Oh. But then it was time for another level. The gold brick icon was the closest thing, so I went to that and started up in a golden labyrinth level. Sense of time, any notion of decline. Yep. Oh, there we go. My health and power were refilled. Not sure how or why, but I was glad not to be heading in the unknown labyrinth, nearly dead. I also noticed that my monster sprite shrunk to half its original size. The music was a slow, ominous drum beat, with the female vocals kicking in about a minute into it. Quite haunting. The gold labyrinth itself was an anomaly. I'm not sure how this level would have played out if I was using Godzilla or Oniisan, because flying seemed necessary to get around the place. Another thing that caught my attention was that when you go left, your monster actually turns and faces left. This sounds stupidly obvious, but in the original game, it was only supposed to move to the right. And when you tried to move to the left, your monster ended up walking/flying backwards. The level was apparently gigantic in size. Because every time I thought I had reached the end to it, or thought I was going to end up back where I started, I encountered something totally new. Things like lava blockades, new enemies, and statue phases. Dude, the fucking Moai! Oh! I found one statue at a dead end with a wide open-eyed stare. I knew keeping this tab open would be perfect for further goofs and gaffes. The night Melissa died, she had an expression on her face that looked exactly like this one the whole time. Even when she got hit by the truck, she still had that same expression. I can't help but feel like something really is staring at me from behind the screen when I look at this. I really didn't want to be reminded of that night anymore, so I left the statue almost as soon as I found it. I needed to find the exit anyways, which proved to be no simple task. It felt like this level stretched on forever in all directions. Must have wandered around the level for at least 15 minutes before I finally found something. I'm gonna get, you know, at some point, right? I once got a fucking email from the people who own Twin Peaks, like the network, because I pirated the entire series, like the first 2 seasons, and was seeding that torrent. Like, they emailed me and they said, "All right, dickhead, we know you have it. Delete it." I said, okay, I'll delete it. And then I stopped seeding the torrent, but I kept the files. It was a creature that wasn't gold, seemingly the only one of its kind. in the level. Lacking any kind of hover ability like the other creatures, it just walked back and forth on the platform. It wasn't long after I found it that a flying machine swooped down and grabbed it and flew off with it. The machine apparently had not seen me, so I decided to follow it, where it was to see where it was taking the creature. The machine stopped at a room with a large cauldron-like object in the center. The machine hovered over the cauldron and dropped the creature into it. Dude, it's the cum jar, but it's full of gold instead. The creature emerged from the hole in the cauldron's side, now adorned in the same gold color as everything else. The machine flew off. I'm not really sure what to make of it, but I'm glad I came upon it, because I found the exit soon after. When I got back to the board, I realized that the bosses hadn't moved at all. A bit odd, but it didn't bother me. It made planning my route through Entropy easier. There were still 2 new icons to explore: the Indigo Cliffs and the black version of the labyrinth. Ow, ow. Since there were only 3 black labyrinth icons, which were surrounded by bosses, I played the Indigo Cliffs first. It was a lot like the Blue-Green Mountains. The level graphics had the same quote-unquote shredded look to it. There's also a recolor of the clouds and moon from the toxic waste dump. The music, if you can call it that, was merely a deep rumbling noise. One of the first things I encountered were these multicolored creatures with big heads emerging from a small cave in the ground. Oh, they're just silly little guys. Look at them. Look at them. They're just silly little guys. The elevator synchronized shaking sound, and they walked to the right in a group after emerging from the cave, ignoring me. Having no other way to go, I followed them on their route. More and more emerged from the cave until the group had about 100 creatures. Eventually, the pathway ended in a cliff. I was shocked to see that upon reaching the cliff, the creatures all began jumping off into the abyss. I've seen enemies walk off cliffs before, but I've never seen NPCs commit mass suicide like this. Very unsettling way to start off the level. I continue on, flying over various strange enemies, like the ones shown here. Bro, that's a dinosaur. Another group of multicolored bobbleheads was jumping up and down, only to be snatched up by the large birds, which I'm fairly certain are sprite versions of the giant condor from quote-unquote Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. I still have to watch that one, actually. I defeated some of the condors in battle, but it bothered me that these bobbleheads seemed to be so eager to die, as if the game itself is alive. Perhaps the creatures in these levels are also alive, and some have very unhappy lives if this behavior is any indication. But what provokes them to do it? In the back of my mind, I almost suspect that the glowing moon in the sky is the reason. At the end of the level, I saw yet another group of bobbleheads marching up to a large monster being devoured. It was starting to disgust me. So, acting on impulse, I fired off eye beams at both the monster and the bobbleheads. I destroy the cave. Hang on, hang on. No, no, no. What is this? This isn't part of the fucking album. What is this? Let's do Predicts the Future next. What the fuck? Oh, my ass hurts. I might have to call it after this chapter just because my ass hurts and I'm kind of getting hungry. The monster became angry, and I ran through the remaining bobbleheads to fight me. Although it lacked any ranged attacks, it was relentless. But it was no match for me. I was in the home stretch now. Up to the bosses, my plan was to go through Batra first, then Megalon, and after that I would watch the last TV screen. I played the Black Labyrinth before fighting Mechagodzilla. And lastly, going through the chase with the Hell Beast. I was curious to see if it would be in a new form again. But first things first, time to beat Batra. As I expected, he started off in his larval form. Music was Varan's battle theme. Whenever the game puts in a new Godzilla kaiju with more than one form, the other form always shows up. For a game that's otherwise inexplicable, it's rather startling in its consistency and accuracy with the new kaiju bosses. During the fight, I noticed that Mothra's combat capabilities had been altered in my favor. Oh, wait, no. The fight started off simple. Larva Batras, in a similar fashion, fought in a similar fashion as Maguma, charging back and forth and occasionally firing off lightning from its horn. The I-beams did twice as much damage as they did originally. Now they were as strong as Godzilla's punches. The poison powder was similarly improved. It also did this nice thing where it would actually hit an enemy when you used it. In the original game, even though Mothra could fly, she was unable to fly over an opponent. You would get knocked back the same way as if you just ran straight into them, which was extremely annoying, but not anymore. I could change direction and fly around, which was a big help because fighting Imago Batra is much like fighting a clone Mothra, although Batra is distinctly faster and stronger. No longer impeded by its slow-moving larval form, Imago Batra was a fearsome opponent. Although it lacked the horn lightning, it now had a new, more powerful I-beam. Batra could change direction as I could, so this battle involved a lot of flipping and flying around, which was pretty damn fun, to be honest. After fighting Batra, I was excited to see what Megalon would be like. But first I went through Indigo Cliffs level, shot through a lot of creatures for their health power-ups. So, about Megalon, his music is Gigan's theme. Makes sense since Gigan was his battle partner in his one and only film appearance. He was a lot like Mogera, but faster, and with more weapons. He'd start out charging off with his drills. He'd fly. I like to fly back and forth around him, which seemed to really annoy him. After a few seconds, he'd step back, turn around, and start spitting out grenades. Those were a pain because they bounce when they hit the quote-unquote ground. Hang on. Don't worry about it. Actually, where are my nail clippers? Where are my nail clippers? I'm having trouble locating my nail clippers. Are you fucking kidding me? Where? Oh, whatever. Whatever. Quick phone check. Yep, alright. Yeah, cock! Hang on, I need to get back on track. Here we go, here we go. Where was I? What was I doing? Who am I? Who are you? Why are you in my house? Leave. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. I'm just joshing. I'm just fucking with you. Ding dong. There we go. All right. Lastly, he started spamming the lightning beam. It only went straight forward, so it was easy to duck under it and then shoot him with the I-beams. Overall, I describe him as strong, persistent, but dumb. I was now nearing the end of Entropy. I had taken down Megalon, and I started for up the last TV to see what I'd get this time. The result was unpleasant. The music for this gruesome scene was the password theme. Couldn't figure out why this animation was so sinister and violent in comparison to the other two. The whole game seemed to be growing more malevolent. As I went on to finish Entropy, I began to feel drained. It's hard to describe. Like I'd suddenly become tired when I wasn't before. Most likely it was just the tension from all that had happened in this game getting to me, but who knows. The last level type of Entropy was what I call the Shadow Labyrinth. The scenery was recolored from gold to black. Music was an evil ambience, similar to the unforgiving cold loop, but distinctly different. Hang on, I've just been made aware that Jabroni Mike might be going live soon. I have to see what he has going on tonight. Ooh, The Sims 4. That's nice. Yeah, my ass hurts and I want to have dinner and I want to take a nap and then I want to probably play some Quake Champions, so I might be logging off soon after this. No one really showed up today anyways, it's fine. I can be as lazy as I want. Oh, you know what? There's some friends in one of the Discords. I'm gonna pop in on them after this. The music was my first sign that this level was going to be distressing. I traveled through the maze for about a minute, and I noticed there weren't any creatures hovering around. It was an odd transition from the Gold Labyrinth, which is overrun with creatures, to this level that had nothing at all. But then, this might be a good thing. Maybe there wouldn't be any obstacles. I could get through the level with ease. Then the screen went dark. Immediately, I snapped out of my daze from a few seconds earlier. Everything had been darkened, so the only thing that could be seen was the Mothra sprite. I couldn't tell where I was going, and I ended up frantically running into walls. I heard a noise. The sound of a crowd running through the hallway. Along with the running came the roars. Loud roaring sounds, which I could describe as something of a rabid dog the size of an elephant, screaming with fury. And I could tell that whatever was making this noise, there were lots of them. I knew there was something there, but it wasn't until I did some screen cap editing that I got to see what my pursuers looked like. But at the time, I couldn't see where they were or where I was going. I was literally running blind, and this mob of beasts eventually caught up with me. All I could think was, no, as I saw my life bar rapidly declining. The monsters had taken me down to half my total health. When I was saved, the light came back on, and the attackers had disappeared. So the challenge of this level was revealed. Find the exit before the lights go out, and a pack of monsters maul you to death. I was in panic mode now, moving as fast as I could go, while trying every path I could find for a way out. I played through the level. The lights went out a total of 3 times. The second time I would have been dead, had it not been for one of the wide-eyed statues. As I stayed close to it, the monsters seemed to all avoid me until the light came back on. The statue warded them away somehow. I was safe as long as I stayed near the statue. At the same time, I had to leave to find the exit. The Shadow Labyrinth turned out to be much smaller than the Gold Labyrinth, as it only took me 6 minutes to navigate to the end. But before the exit, there was a row of halls leading straight down, with no way out once entered. You either got to the exit before the monsters reached you, or you died. Thankfully, I made it out. Only one more boss, Mecha Godzilla. I started the battle, but something unexpected happened. Not only did my life shoot back up to 100% again, it seemed to do that randomly, but instead of a replacement boss, I was fighting Godzilla. But any Godzilla fan worth their salt can figure this out. Mecha Godzilla started off like fighting a clone Godzilla, but his disguise burned away after only 3 life bars. Usually the transformation only occurred at the halfway point. At this point, it was like fighting Mechagodzilla in the normal game. Felt kind of nice to fight one of the original game enemies for a change. Although he wasn't exactly like normal. He also had a rainbow beam and finger missiles. This prevented me from doing the old trick of backing him in the corner and hitting him with I-beams in a spot where he can't hit me. But that was always a cheap trick anyways. After getting him down to half his health, something weird started to happen. The sprite started to glitch in much the same way that Godzilla had way back in the first world. After a few seconds, the glitches began to form a new shape. And thus the game had created not Mechagodzilla. And I had discovered that this visual glitch was somehow related to the game recreating things. The human face on this one gives it a very uncanny look. It was one of the stronger replacement monsters, and had the most firepower. Pictured here is its mouth beam, which I got caught in the middle of. Even though it was a bit stronger, it was also slower than its original counterpart, and I couldn't jump around as much. I won the fight by constantly staying out of its line of fire, bombarding the machine with poison powder as I flew over it. One last thing to do, the Hell Beast chase. Oh boy! Might as well just get this over with, I thought. They fly now. They fly now. Oh, yeah. The entropy end chase ended up being exactly what I was afraid it would be. A labyrinth level. All the other chases, though difficult, were extremely straightforward. You just had to run to the right and not get touched. But this took all the simplicity out of it. There was no telling how big this labyrinth would be, or where the exit was. And now, not only did I have to constantly backtrack to find my way out, I also had to avoid getting one hit killed by the red monster. And for those 30 seconds, it didn't show up. But I knew it would. And as I started picking up the pace, I heard a loud flapping noise. And here it was, in a flying form. It flew with bat-like wings, and was as fast and relentless as ever. For reasons only already stated, this was probably the most nerve-wracking of all the end chases. And as such, I had to keep my focus on the game and not taking screen caps. However, I did take one of the red monster doing something I found very interesting. I had managed to lose it by going through a different path than it apparently expected. It was blocked from attacking me by one of those organic walls of the red labyrinth, or so I thought. It tried clawing the wall for a second before opening its mouth and tearing the wall apart with an intestine jaw. But those brief milliseconds that the monster was held back might have been the key to me finding the path. The path to the exit was long and complex, but from what I remember, I went up and then back toward the left. I'm not sure why I chose that particular way. It was just lucky, a hunch, I suppose. I was sweating profusely. But my luck had saved me yet again. I hoped that it wouldn't run out before I finished the game. There were only 2 more worlds to go. Next was the penultimate world, Extus. Yeah, I'm not feeling good right now. My throat is starting to suffer greatly. So I'm going to log off and I'm going to annoy my friends. Slug drawing stream tomorrow. And then on Friday, Space Warlord organ trading. On Saturday, there's the brother check-in. And on Sunday, we're doing quiet time. I don't know what exactly I'm doing yet, but it's going to be nice. Just rushing through it. Have a good night. Fucking, yeah, whatever. See you tomorrow.